Welcome to the Collingwood Rant. I'm Sly.
And I just can't stop winning Spook. Well, not me winning.
Podcasting it this week due to technical difficulties. Let's jump straight into it, Spook.
Yep.
What'd you think of the win?
It was a good win.
Just good?
Yep.
Nah, well, show's over. Thanks for joining us.
And catch us next week for even more insightful commentary.
Um,
No, actually, I think it was borderline superb. The first half was absolutely incredible to watch, and really the third quarter a bit of a sluggish start, but once they got back into gear again, the rest of the game was just a breeze. It was incredible.
yeah, I mean, I look at it from the point of view of I would actually have some trepidation, because you just keep waiting for the bubble to burst with this club. And in Buckley years, it did. Last year, we did, went a long way to reversing that trend. So, one thing I was actually really worried about as we got an early lead was I kept waiting for that lead to be whittled away. Like under Buckley, we constantly get like 20, 30 points up, and then we just undo it all. So that first half to just continually build on that lead and just crush their spirit, it was sublime. It's really one of the best things I've seen at this club for about 12 years.
Oh no, I mean, really, it was harkening back to the 2011 demolition years before everything imploded.
Yeah.
The ball movement was just staggering. I mean, the precise targeting was just incredible. It was a joy to watch. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
It,
without being stupid with that saying, it was just phenomenally good and clean.
and purposeful. I mean, that's the best thing, like they were just continually going, well, the goals are that way. That's the way we're going. It wasn't that Buckley thing, let's chip across the ground and then chip back the other way. And then, no, it's not working and go back again. It was like, no, we're going that way and we'll find a way through or we'll risk losing the ball to get through. So it was really beautiful to watch. That third quarter really felt like they sort of came out and felt like, yeah, hey, we're far enough ahead. And they played a little bit like I don't want to say millionaires, but foot came off the pedal. And the way they finished the game, I don't know what the coaches said, but it felt like they must have said, a game is 4 quarters long. It's not 2 quarters. So because they just upped the tempo immediately in that fourth quarter and they just crushed Port. So it was really encouraging to see a game where we just dominated from beginning to end. And I mean, I don't know when was the last big win we've had. I don't really remember.
No, there wasn't too many last year. Yeah, I don't know. Would have been one of the crazy 2021 games,
2020,
but even
20.
even then, I don't think we had a margin upwards of. What do we end up winning this one by? 71 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a rarity. I just hope we haven't peaked too early.
Well, it is March, and we're Premiership favourites now. Reef McInnes being dropped. How'd you feel about that?
I was a little bit surprised, but at the moment, you can sort of see that it's difficult to squeeze anyone in. I mean, the thing is, you're not going to mess with form when you're playing well, even though we're only 2 games in. I don't think they can continue with him as super sub every week, but he still comes on and has an impact, which is good.
Yeah.
It just sort of goes to show that he's a player of quality and an emerging player of quality, and he could slot in that side straight away. Which, when you look back, and I'm guessing this year we'll do a fair bit of harkening back to the 2010 era. You saw in that side or that year that if anyone succumbed to an injury or was out or whatever, whoever came in fulfilled that role exactly more or less the same, and you're starting to see some of that evolve in the side.
Yeah. You have Howe obviously out and Ginnivan out. They're probably two guys you would consider in the top 22, 23. This game, you had all four recruits in Frampton, McStay, Hill, and Mitchell. And it's like, okay, last year, you made a prelim, you've brought four players in, they're actually all holding spots. So they've pushed other players out like Bianco and stuff like that. So it's actually really hard to look at someone like McInnes and think, where do you fit him at the moment, the way they're playing? I mean, being Collingwood, I'm sure there'll be injuries that open up positions for him later on. But right now, guys like Ginnivan and that, you go, can you fit him back in? Or even if he plays really well in the reserves, how do you squeeze him back into that side?
No, well, that's it. I mean, who do you drop at the moment? Yeah, unless you're planning on covering Ginnivan as a separate subject, at the
No,
moment, he has to come back through the VFL.
definitely has to come back for the VFL. I mean, that's the culture that McRae's building is you earn your position. You don't just expect to be the number one ruckman. Oh, sorry, a number one player in the side and then sulk if if it doesn't happen, you have to win that position back. So um it's actually really heartening to see. Like I still think I'm still a little bit agnostic about certain players in that side, so they have the opportunity to cement those spots. So what do you think of Frampton?
Um, look, I didn't see the game live. I'll say that. I was away this weekend, so I watched it on Sunday night. I was aware that there was some commentary going on, especially from a few of my mates when the game was live, that he was in struggle 10 at the start. So I wasn't sure what to expect when I watched the replay. But, there was a couple of things that he sort of, probably, I don't know whether it was nerves or, unfortunate cock ups or whatever. But I think once he settled, he was actually effective. He didn't really seem to do much wrong after first half of the first quarter. I think, for a first time up, well, for us, because what is he? He's 30, close to 30 games into his
Oh,
career
no idea.
as as a sort of
Get
more
on
or
the
less
swamp.
mature player now. Something to work with, definitely. I mean, he's got good size. I really hope they can mold him.
Yeah, look, I actually thought while Dixon started well, I think there was not a lot Frampton could have done in those situations because like there was one that was just a pass to a really nice lead. So uh, I thought Frampton unwittingly exposed the stupidity of the stand rule because the one he did stuff up was when he gave away the 50. And it's like, well, he's standing on the mark. He's actually going backwards from the mark. So he's giving the guy off the ball more room and you're penalizing him, which is just fucking stupid, which is just how absurd that stand rule is. It's like just stand there and don't do anything. You can't do anything. He was actually peeling backwards, so he was giving Dixon much more room to run to play on or whatever it was. And it's a 50. It's like, well, how did he impede the ball carrier? So I just find that really stupid. That I'm talking about the AFL. So hey, uh, one of the things what do you think about the umpiring in the first quarter? Because we got a lot of frees.
Again, I don't recall screaming at the TV.
No, we got him. Why would you scream? We were getting him.
No, what I'm saying, there's no exceptions to that statement that I can think of. I think the game was fairly well adjudicated. I don't have any memories of anything that was glaringly beneficial to us or particularly punished us.
Yeah. I mean, what I noticed in that first quarter is they really were paying holding the ball, which I actually like. I think they should be paying it
No,
like
I
that,
agree.
and you see, like it keeps the game open because players can't hold on to it or pretend they're trying to get rid of it or whatever. So I actually really, really enjoyed it from that perspective. I know you get idiots like he didn't say it that day, like James Brayshaw, and I know Chad Corn said it too. Or was it Kane? I never always getting confused. But like they say, oh, there's too many frees being paid. And it's like, it's a fucking stupid statement. If the frees are there, what do you want the umpire to do to not pay him?
Well,
That's
that's it.
your solution.
There's no subset to the rule book that says you can only get to use this one 10 times a game.
Yeah. So if these people are getting paid well, So uh how's that 35 going? You think he might make it?
He's struggling a bit, isn't he?
He's actually the Brownlow favourite at the moment.
which is incredible in his second year. And I think they did try and tag him early on the piece, but he pretty much just laughed. There was a passage that I saw on the couch last night at one of the ball ups that they were showing, and his fleet of foot was just staggering because the tag was right next to him, and I think the bloke literally blinked, and he was suddenly 2 meters off to his left, and he was sort of zigzagging into where he anticipated the ball was going to end up going. And you sort of think that's just ridiculous for a second year player to have that much awareness and at the same time evasiveness to break the shackle. I think the tag just had that brief second where he was saying, "Oh, where's the ball at the moment?" And next, Nick was gone. Look, I'm sure there'll be better taggers out there that'll make him accountable this year, but he just doesn't seem to have a never say die attitude. It's he's going to be an amazing player.
Yeah, I mean, not the astonishing thing, but the laudable thing is just his work rate is just huge.
Oh yeah,
I'm not saying like elite players don't have great work rates, but his is really sublime. So, in terms of he just keeps running it, and his certainty, that goal where Pendlebury handled it over his head, and Nick arched his back from the tackle and then kicked it. He celebrated the moment he dropped it onto his foot.
No, he had his hand up in the air. I think pretty much just as soon as the ball connected with his foot.
Yeah, and that was just seeing that was like it wasn't arrogant or anything. He actually knew. I know I've nailed that one. And his brother's not doing too bad also. So
Oh, no, seriously, he's. I said I've probably covered this before, but I maybe a year or two ago I wasn't sure whether he was going to cut it.
Well, you said the
But I
same thing
think
about
with Nick
Pendlebury
there,
too.
he's just made him such a far better player. And I don't want to undersell his efforts. On his own, he still may have been exceptionally good, but I think he walks taller with his brother there. If not a silly thing to say, I think he challenges him,
Wow,
or they
that's a
challenge each
silly
other to
thing
be
to
better.
say. No, actually, what I was going to say about Josh is Dane Swan tweeted that I think he tweeted, but he was saying the Dacos, which I was presuming Nick, the breakout wouldn't have happened under Buckley. And you look at like Josh Dacos under Buckley, he had that one really good year in 2020, I think it was, as a wingman, purely as a
Mm.
wingman. And then Buckley said, well, now I'll use him as a defensive half forward. And it's like, where is the sense in that? And when McRae's come in, he's just going, where do you want to play? And it's like wing. And he's being left on the wing primarily. I mean, he'll still have stints in the middle every now and again, but he's primarily a wingman. I think it was a crime that he wasn't in the All-Australian side last year as a wingman. I think he was the best pure wingman in the competition. And I saw on Rowan Connolly's website, Ronnie Lerner, the journalist, just saying the same thing. He goes, he's the best pure wingman in the league at the moment. So, I think it really helps the development of this side if you can get players like Josh, not Nick, because Nick went, pick 4 or whatever it was. But you get those players who came lower in the draft, and if you can get them to be more than just role players and all that, it's like going to really help this side develop. So you got to give credit to McRae for getting a lot of those players with Riven Age. Side bottom's another one. So well
Just
done.
backpedal for a second. In the last quarter, there was a kick that Josh delivered into the forward line that just sailed over the top of the Port defender and landed on the chest of I can't remember who it was. I think it was Mio. But it's seriously, when I saw that, it was just like, that is just the most perfectly balanced, well weighted kick I can recall anyone ever doing. And topic come up with the boys this week about who do you think is the better kick, Nick or Josh? Who do you think? Before I answer,
I still think Nick is. I mean, look, I think Josh is really good, but I think one thing is Nick has the ability to just size up something almost instantaneously. It's like that chip kick he did, and he did one against Geelong, like in traffic, and he just weighted it perfectly. So that's not to say Josh is a brilliant kick also, but I think probably Nick still.
yeah, I mean they're both exceptionally good. I think Nick's just slightly ahead, but Josh just has crazy moments like that. That Pete must be just relishing all those times down at the park and everything about what he's forged with those two. They
Well,
are incredible.
the one thing with Pete, you go back to his Dacos video from the 1990, whatever it was, the Dacos
Dacos
Magic.
Magic.
Yeah. And he
Why isn't that on Blu-ray?
should be.
It'll be at IMAX.
A lot of the players should have better videos. But anyway, I was just going to say that he said, like people said practice makes perfect, and he goes, I don't agree with that. It's perfect practice makes perfect, and
It's a good
you know,
statement.
you see a lot of well, when he was, when he was playing, when we were watching him, like a lot of people called him a fluke, but I mean, he did it so often. He obviously wasn't fluking. He really knew how to, how to kick the ball. I remember Crackers Keenan talking about in his own autobiography about 10 years in black and white, just saying there was one time Dacos was jogging around the boundary at training. When he got near the point post, he dribbled the ball in for a goal. And Keenan said, challenged him, do that again. And Dacos, just kept jogging. And when he went back around the other side, he did it again. And Keenan just said he would stay at training and he'd kick the ball and learn how it would bounce depending on where he hit it and all that sort of stuff. So, it wasn't fluke. And he's obviously passed that on to his brothers, not to his brothers, to his son, sorry. And like going back to the Buckley thing where Swan said, the Dacos wouldn't have had this breakout without under Bucks. It's like you think about some of those players like the Brown brothers, if they would have been better players or better developed had they been in a better development system. So we don't know, but it's it really is that sort of, I think, with players sliding doors at times. It's like it depends where you land under who's coaching and all that sort of stuff, under whose development. It could make or break your career. I mean, some players will make it regardless, like Buckley, would have made it regardless. I mean, he did make it regardless because he was in a pretty bad environment too. But other players really need to be groomed along the way. So anyway, enough about that. Since you watched the replay, did you see Buckley talking pre-game about how Collingwood's attack was their defence?
No, I didn't watch any of the preamble stuff. It was getting late, so I just went straight to the game. So you tell me about the pearls of wisdom.
They were talking about how well Collingwood attacked, and Buckley was going, well, that attack is their defense also. And it was almost like he was trying to one-up McRae. I mean, that's the way I sort of felt. And I actually think, I used to say this about Buckley when he took over, it felt like he was trying to hybridize the Geelong game plan, which is a lot of what we play. The Geelong game plan from 207 and that. They really play that daring style. And the Hawthorn game plan where you chip your way through traffic when needed. And you never got it working. And I watching the way McRae has got him playing makes me I actually think this is the way Buckley wanted him to play originally, and he just couldn't get it happening.
I think we talked about it before. That I think one of the issues with Bucks' coaching is that the message was lost. I think you can overcomplicate some of this stuff, and I just don't think, even though in his head, like what you said, he probably had it executing beautifully because as a player, that's how he would have understood it. I don't think that message made it a way into the minds of the playing group that they could grasp what his concepts were about. I think the beauty of McRae and Lepic and all those others is that they are making them see their vision, and they're just drilling them beautifully, and they're almost executing it on reflex now. I think, just to get back what I said before about peaking too early, at the moment, if that's how you're playing, and if you continually improve on that from week to week, you're an unstoppable force. And that way, I don't think you can actually peak too early because all you're doing is improving. I don't think we're catching anyone out or anything with what we're doing now. It's just that I think we're executing it better than everybody else.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's one of the things that, when we go back to one of the things that used to shit me in 2011, the reason apparently we lost the grand final and struggled in the finals that year is that people had worked out the press. I can't see that as being true because the press was executed better than anything for the bulk of the year. If you continually do something and you're just making it hard to counter because you're so good at it, it's people will catch up, but you still got 2 or 3 steps ahead of them. And I think that's hopefully what we're going to start building this year as well, is that it doesn't matter that people can work out the way that we're doing things. They can and try and effectively stop it, but we're just executing it so well that we'll find ways through regardless.
Yeah, look, I mean, for people who have that argument that we'll work that into 11. My counter is bullshit. The reality is, if clubs are being worked out in the season, then why the fuck did Brisbane win 3 flags? Why is Geelong won? Why did Geelong win 3 over 5 years? Why did Hawthorn won 4 in 6 years, whatever it was? They don't get worked out. I mean, the reality in 211 is just going into the last month, we started getting injuries. There was a lot of distraction around the succession plan. Dane Swan talks about it openly in his book, that, players were looking at like getting a petition, wanting this Malthouse to stay. So I'll just thank Eddie Maguire for knowing all that was happening. None of us knew it was going on. It's just leaked out more lately when you've had the guys like Daisy and Heater who are now retired, but they sort of talk. They have these little shots about this stuff was going on. So just really, people who say we didn't fuck up a dynasty, you're just so grotesquely wrong about that, because we had a young squad that could have dominated. We had a game plan that was just dominating. I mean, fucking, they still got 160% into 11. So the thing that was just fucked up was all the behind the scenes shit. So
as usual.
Yeah, and I really like that, it seems McRae's very conscious of that too. It's great that he comes. I'll tell you what I really like. There was one tackle, I can't remember who he tackled. John Noble tackled, I can't remember who it was. It wasn't Giorgio. Yeah, but after he tackled him and, dragged him into the ground, and the umpire awarded the free, like Noble actually just drove his hands into the guy, like to rub his face into the turf. And it just
I
showed.
remember that. Was that the one, like, literally in the dying minute of the game?
Yeah, it was right toward the end. It's just like, I really love that. I love that the craze getting into play with some attitude too, which is something we just have not done at this club. We've always sort of been the good citizens. It's like, well, you look at the premiers of Hawthorn, Geelong, Brisbane, and Richmond, they are mongrels. So I want to see that aggression.
We've been calling this for years, that you just got to build that killer instinct. That doesn't matter whether there's 20 minutes to go or whether there's 20 seconds to go, is that you just don't lift your foot off the accelerator.
Yep.
And I love what Noble did in that instant too, because the game's well and truly fucking won. He could have just laughed and taken himself off at that point, but just to really have a crack. And I mean, the rundown and the tackle was brilliant as well. And you don't really probably expect to see that in the last gasp of a game. But I was absolutely over the moon that it happened, and I hope there's more of it.
Yep, totally agree.
I think you can relax when that final siren blows.
Oh, look, I think whatever sport you're playing, you really want to have a killer instinct. So there should never be a mindset that, hey, we can relax now. We've got the game or whatever the fuck. It should really be a case of, as you just said, you play until the final siren. So yeah, no, really liking that. You think it was like one of the best wins since 2011, even including the finals that we've we won in 2018.
It's certainly up there.
Like the prelim when we stopped Richmond winning 4 in a row.
Did we? Did we do that?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can talk about that in the Richmond preview, because I'd like to reminisce about that. It's one of my favourite statements. What was your question again? Now you distracted me.
One of the best wins.
Best wins. That was it. Yeah, look, I think it's certainly up there. I think one of the things of watching a replay is the outcome already, and you're watching a replay. I think if I was watching that game live, and I was following scores, but because you had no context of the game, I could clearly see we were kicking ahead. So I thought, no, well, from my perspective as a viewer, I'm relaxing now. We're going to win this game. How we've pulled it off, that will be revealed when I sit down and watch it. So even then, the outcome. I think if I was watching it live, I would have had a lot more respect, I think, for how good that game actually was. In terms of clean execution, I think technically it's one of the better games I've seen them play. In terms of their approach, the execution, the ball movement. I mean, they were just hunting in packs and waves. It was just a joy to watch. And what's more is, like, it wasn't like the week before where Geelong tried to cover the middle of the ground and force us wide. We just burst through the middle time and time again. I can't even remember we went to the flanks all that often. It was just a clinical display. I mean, really. And again, look, I'll cut. Port's not a terrible side by any stretch. They, I think, threw everything at the start of the second half, and then when they get 3 goals in a row before we scored, that was their one parting shot. That was it. I think, and after that, we just stomped on them again. It was a brilliant game.
Yeah. Like Port just came off smashing Brisbane, so their confidence would have been high.
Definitely.
What do you think of Jason Horne-Francis being booed?
I can't work out why we did that. Because I mean, I've been taught recently that booing's racist, so clearly he doesn't fit the mold there. I have no idea why. Is it because he left?
North,
Well,
yeah.
the only thing I think of is because he sort of essentially walked out of a second year of a contract. I don't get it.
I think you'd be cheering him for walking out of fucking North Melbourne.
Apparently, he's requested a trade back to him though now.
I mean, unless you look at it like there's some empathy there because Collingwood's like, oh well, but Ollie Henry walked out, so now let's boo bloody Jason Horne-Francis who walked out. Yeah, I didn't see the point of it. It's just like, fuck, who gives a shit, really?
Yeah, it was a couple of times too. Like I think the
Oh,
first
they
time I
did it
was watching
regularly.
it, I thought, did I miss something? Did he clock somebody or whatever? But it was a couple of times.
The only
It made no sense to me.
the only I think of is like the bit of rivalry with Nick Dacos, you know. So look, I don't know. I didn't see the point of it. It's just, yeah, I understand the theatre of the game. To boo someone who walked out of a powerhouse in North Melbourne, like fucking hell, really? You can't, and the homesickness thing too for like someone like him. It's like it's not an hour down the freeway. It's interstate. So I can understand homesickness when they're moving states, not necessarily when they're moving cities. Um, what do you think? Actually, I'll go to this. Kim Dillon from SEN. Don't know, never heard of this person before this, but he suggests we won't make the eight, despite our brilliant start to the season. He says that we'll run out of puff.
Do you think Kim Dillon in that statement just demonstrated why nobody's heard of him?
Well, it was actually funny because I read the article and they're going, well, we also tipped Carlton to not make the eight and stuck to it, even though Carlton had a.
Apparently, he's tipped 16 sides not to make the eight. He's a
It's
genius.
but it's like, oh, really? You tipped Carlton has gone from like 3 coaches in 5 years to not make the eight. Geez, that's fucking bold. Because they were a real powerhouse during those years that, Teague was coaching and Bolton was coaching. And then who was the guy they brought in after Teague? I can't remember. Or was it Voss? It was two before Voss. I don't. They've had that many coaches. I don't remember. They've been struggling side for so long. You tipped them not to make the eight. Wow. Uh yeah.
Dillon, though, he's a genius. Apparently, Mensa had an emergency meeting trying to work out how he slipped through their crack.
What do you think of the jumper debate? We've actually given Port permission to wear their showdown jumper, and I was reading some of the comments on social media, and people were aghast. How dare we give?
Well, I think after their performance of the weekend, they're an embarrassment to the black and white. Did I see in the replay that they had the prison bar giant flag at both ends of the ground or something?
I think it was there. I don't know if it was at both ends, yeah, but it was there.
No, I did. I thought I read someone say it was at both ends, one above the cheer squad and one down the other end. Yeah, good luck to you with that. That clearly motivated them.
What do you think about like actually letting him wear the jumper? Like,
I don't give a fuck if they wear the jumper.
yeah,
As long as
so.
it's, I mean, really, you can't obviously do it against us. I look, Port Adelaide's still running around the sample, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, it's not exactly like you're marrying up something that jumped from one competition and landed in the other. Port Adelaide Power are a football team in the AFL. Port Adelaide are still a team in the SANFL. And do they catch up on the weekends? Do they do anything during the week? Do they have a laugh together? I think they're still fairly separate entities, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, if you want to carry out the charade that you still think you're that club and wear that jumper a couple of times a year, I couldn't care.
Oh, look, I'd even let him wear it against us. I said it before. It should actually, when we play him, it should be for the right to wear the jumper in the next clash, and the loser should have to wear an alternate strip. I actually think it would add a lot of heat to the rivalry. And, you talk about theatre, it would actually add a lot of that to it too. So it doesn't bother me. I think people get precious about something that really it's not that fucking important anymore. So who gives a fuck? Article by Jake Knoll suggests that our fire sale was a brilliant start of reinvention retrospectively.
Yeah. Who wrote that?
I
Was it
think the
Jake
club,
or
yeah, I don't know. It read like it came from the club almost.
it's like it was a bit of a statement. Yeah,
I mean,
look, I think everyone's moved past that. Did we really need to go back to it?
oh, look, I think the reality is, retrospectively, it does look great, but I think the reality is you should never fucking be in that position. So,
Yeah, I think in fairness to
oh, who
not
loves
so
Eddie
much
Maguire
about the
now?
ones that were listed in that article is you go back over decades. There's not too many that we let go that have come back and haunted us. Heater's probably the best of them all that went to another club. The rest of them have been, ended up being mediocre. So you've just seen that same really pattern emerge again. I don't think look, it got us back some salary cap space that enabled us to do some things. So yeah, there's merit in some of the article, but at the end of the day, I didn't read it and think, fuck, what a revelation.
Yeah, I look at it from the point of view is just, I mean, again, we can comment respectively because now we know a lot more. But at the time, the club, and I won't name who it is, but should probably be Eddie Maguire, you would have had a great awareness of what your cap position was, and they really should have just said, you know what, the time to make a hard call is fucking right now. Grundy's an All-Australian. Let's float him around. He wants to go back before he signs a 7-year contract. Let's float him to Adelaide. We'll get 2 first-rounders. They should have been making these calls back then with the knowledge that they had at their disposal. They shouldn't have come to a point like I saw in that article, one thing where North Melbourne said, we're not going to give a first rounder for Stevenson. We know they can't keep him on the book. So we let ourselves trade from a position of weakness. And I hope that's the Grundy thing last year is the last time we fucking do that. I hope from now on we have a full vision, 5-year vision of what's lays ahead for our cap. And we can make tough decisions when they're required rather than later.
Yeah, look, I definitely think that's probably going to be the case. There would have been a lot of lessons learned out of this not latest, but the salary cap debacle. It took years to fix, and I think it's only really this year that it's clean. You wouldn't go back to what you saw before. Look at the carnage it caused. It'd just be madness. You know, I'd really no. I'm confident moving forward that they'll keep
Oh,
a
I'm
lid on
confident
it.
now that someone's no longer president. I think
Yeah, well, that's a good point.
it's like I mean, Paul Licuria drove the appointment of the coach, and look, everyone's happy with McRae, aren't they? And how was that allowed to happen? Once Eddie was gone, the club could actually go through a process, something they'd never done. If Eddie was still coach there, he probably would have just tapped. Sorry,
Yeah, he
coach.
was
I can't
still
say
coach,
if he probably would have appointed himself coach. If he was still president, he probably would have just bloody tapped.
president,
Ross.
captain, and coach.
I would have tapped Ross Lyon on the shoulder, said, "Hey, come coach Collingwood." There would have been no process. Here's your thing. Go for it.
Yeah, no doubt there would have been an attempt at a handshake.
Yeah. So once he departed, it just seems there's a lot of freedom for people to start doing what the fuck they're either appointed to or paid to do or whatever. Out of curiosity, I mean, we're just talking about Grundy. Did you watch the Melbourne Brisbane game?
I watched snippets of it. I did know that Gorn had gone down with a knee early, and I think at the time I thought, oh, I wonder how Grundy's going to respond, having to go ruck on his own. And I think it was pretty much the form, from what I gather.
Yeah, it was very much a typical Collingwood game, and I saw Melbourne supporters turning against him too. So I actually found
They
that
were just cutting
interesting.
and pasting from
Collingwood,
Collingwood tweets.
yeah. So Collingwood Richmond this week, Spook. Thoughts?
Yes. Thoughts? My initial thought is I think we should drop everyone this week and just play Cox on his own. Because as we know, he stops them from winning 4 grand finals in a row, so he shouldn't have too much trouble with stopping the entire side this week. I think it'd be another good story to add to the bow.
Yeah, I think the real beauty of stopping that 4 grand finals, 4 flags in a row is, they haven't even won 2 of them at that point. So it's always great to stop, that third one before the second one's happened. Because
Oh no, it
obviously,
was they were there for the 4-peat up until Coxie,
yeah,
the
well,
Man Mountain.
I mean, nothing changes. I mean, you change a moment in time and everything just flows on the fucking same as always. As that documentary Back to the Future taught people nothing. I mean, I'm pretty sure Coxie came from the bloody future, and he said to Bucks, he goes, "Something's got to be done about Richmond. Put me in the
Something has
prelim."
to be done. You have to stop them.
Yeah.
He said,
So
"What do they become arseholes or something?"
Just out of curiosity, as an aside, I mean, how do you feel? I mean, I saw someone said that the other day, and it just fucking got me angry. It was just like, stop hanging your fucking hat on something that doesn't exist.
Well, that's it. I think we because we don't have a lot of grand final success, we're starting to build this
Not
culture
starting.
of continuing this culture of celebrating stupid events that look, they mean something at the time, but then they become like folklore type things. It's just nuts. Celebrate
Oh,
wins. Don't celebrate these little things that may or may not have made a difference.
yeah. I mean, the thing that really, really, really fucking gets me fucking angry is how that season turn out for you guys.
Mm.
Oh, did you lose the grand final, but you're going to celebrate a preliminary final when you fucking losers? Is that what your bar is set at? Is just, all right, we lost the grand final. Let's just celebrate a preliminary final win and then attribute to it that, hey, we stopped Richmond's four-peats by stopping their second one. Okay. We did that with Carlton too, then, because they won in 79, 81, and 82, but they lost in 80 to us in the finals. So we stopped their four-peat too.
I
I'm
think
sure,
Foxy was a part of that one as well.
yeah. Oh, well, I think if you look back in history, we've probably stopped quite a few four-peats, probably even other ones. We probably stopped fucking someone's six-peat or something. I don't know. Who knows what we've done that the fans might, find joy in. Anyway, now that I've gotten angry about that, how about the game against Richmond? So they drew unconvincingly against Carlton,
The
and
Blues,
then
yep.
and then they really just sort of just beat Adelaide.
They're middling. I think, look, they've been a good side for a number of years. I don't know why the media still thinks every year there's still a chance. They're in their descendancy.
Oh, I think the two
Um,
things. I mean, they recruited the two GWS guys whose names I can't even fucking remember. They were so good, Hopper and
Gary and John.
yeah, that'll do. Taranto, that was the one. And while they got Dusty there, there's always a chance that he'll just have a day out. I mean, they still got Lynch, and they've still got a good team. They're just aging and
Well,
Cochin's
you
not.
look at Rewald, you'd seriously think Rewald's gone on 1 year too many up until Friday night. That is, of course. Now that I've said that,
But this is the thing too. This is the one thing I really love about what I've seen so far with McRae is I'll go back to the Carlton game, the last game of the year, fucking last year. If we win, we finish top four. If we lose, we'll probably drop to like sixth, and Carlton cements their position in the eight, and we'll probably play them again. And in days gone by, they'd probably play us again and beat us again, and that'll end their finals campaign.
did we
It
stop
will.
any four-peats, though, in this scenario?
We stopped their first Pete, but
I'm only interested in stopping things now that
but
you've brought it up.
but you look at that, and in the past we've lost so many of those sort of games, and we fucking won. And I really, we won in the most heartbreaking way for Carlton, which was just doubled the joy. And last year Collingwood did that repeatedly, where they just won games that you'd never expect them to win, and not just once or twice. They just fucking kept doing it. I mean, that Essendon second win, I'd never see Collingwood do fucking something like that. In the last 35 seconds, um, kick it out from the behind, and get it all the way to Elliott at half forward, and Elliott kicks that at the end of a 120-minute game from pretty much where the arc meets the boundaries, right on the 50. Yeah, he's fucking kicked that. I mean, most players by that stage of the game wouldn't make the distance. Those things don't happen to Collingwood.
Not
So,
Noble, though. Noble would be there.
but it's just, yeah, those things don't generally happen at Collingwood. And it's, I think, again, go back to Buckley. I think this is what he tried to do at the club, is change the culture. But I think McRae's actually doing it. He is infusing the players there, infusing the culture there with, hey, you can fucking win. This is what you
And
need
you
to
can
do.
enjoy yourself too, which you probably figure there wasn't a lot of enjoyment under the Bucks' reign, from what you hear. Not
Well,
across the board. That is.
Well, you saw Heater and Daisy were joking because Buckley was going to play some game for some country.
The Rat Pack was coming out of retirement.
Yeah, to play against him, and so you look at the. I mean, I know you get people in the media and in the fandom who continue to claim that no, we were under descent at 2-11 and we needed to make a change, um, and we weren't as good as we thought, even though we fucking dominated in the flag year, and in the year we lost, we dominated and ended up with a fucking percentage of 160. But I guess that's not evidence of clearly being a pretty good fucking side. And people go, "Oh, Geelong was good too." I was like, "Great, but you generally dynasties, particularly ones that are made up of clubs with players who the average age is like 22, 23. Generally, they tend to last a little bit longer than the 18 months." But unless there's some sort of internal stimuli which is dismantling them, and I don't want to point fingers, because obviously, there's no hard evidence to say trading the bulk of players out, you know, changing strategies to be playing a dreary, ultra defensive game style, players leaving acrimoniously, none of that. There's no evidence of any of that, is there? So apparently it was just because we're in decline. So I won a flag, finished top, and then we're in decline. So I don't know. A lot of people push that narrative. It's really fucking infuriating. And we're getting away
I
from
know
Richmond.
over on the on the Geelong rant this week they were talking about the fact that Geelong stopped our four-peat. So there's that.
Yeah, um, well, they did. They stopped. They stopped us 3 times. So they were really determined to stop it. Yeah. Anyway, going off topic. So playing Richmond, aging team, still got a few fucking Warriors in there. They're probably still capable of a surprise or two. I'm
No
real.
Broad though this week. Dusty's under a hamstring cloud, so hopefully he plays with that bung hamstring.
They put Coxie on him.
I think you can just go to whoever he wants, Coxie. It's a bit of a field day out for the big boy.
I will say one thing though.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him out there on a deck chair in the middle of the game with the pina colada in one hand. Can you get a hammock between the goalposts in defence? I wonder.
I think he should
pop
probably
his hand up every now and then, just tap the ball in.
Oh, I think he's so tall you probably need a hammock from one set of goals to the other.
Or maybe the tower lights.
Yeah, well, that'll work if they're not, popping.
Maybe you can climb one of the towers at 3/4 time, like King Kong. Are we allowed to make Kong jokes anymore?
I don't know.
No, probably not. Probably not.
Yeah. Look, the one thing I was going to say is like there's a. I don't know if it goes across the board, not the broad.
The broad.
But like I talk to a lot of Collingwood fans and like, oh, hopefully this guy's out. Hopefully this guy's out. Just fucking beat the best team out there.
Exactly right.
Be fearless. And so I don't care whether their best team. Sorry, if players are missing it up, fucking beat whoever's out there. And this is the thing I'm really curious about, because honestly, that game against Port surprised me and pleased me so much to just do that to a club that does consider themselves a contender, who probably really felt that they were a genuine chance against us, and probably also, like fucking had some of the jumper debate there as a little bit of fuel for the players and shit like that, and heritage and all that sort of crap. And we just smashed the shit out of them. So I'm really interested to see what we do with Richmond, to Richmond, against Richmond. And at the moment, outside of Howe, you've probably got like your best team out there. So we have no real injury excuses. I'm really like to see how Frampton goes again also, because he'll either have Lynch or Revolts, presumably. But that midfield unit, we've really just turned around the contested possession and the centre clearances. And the one guy we neglected to mention previously was bloody Darcy Cameron, who was fucking brilliant.
Oh, yeah. No, very, very, very good. Surprisingly good. I think he had 8 in possession and 16 of them were contested. He was just he was in everything.
I think the really good thing is when we play Melbourne, we'll have free ruckman tapping to our midfielders. But so and someone, I posed the question to the person I was watching the game with, just said, if you could take anyone in the league, who would you take? Any player to add to that side?
Oh, you asking me that?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
I thought you were about to finish a story about what your person you watched it with. While you were doing that, I'm trying to work out if I knew any geneticists that could work some more magic with the Dacos DNA.
Oh, well, it's just, test your babies.
How quickly can you grow a clone these days?
Fuck, I don't know. Ask
The
JJ
evil ones
Abrams.
come out really quick. Who
Oh,
would I take in the league? I would take I think Max King.
Max King.
Oh no, maybe actually, sorry, maybe Mikhail Kurno.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to keep forward. Look, as much as I'm enjoying what I think McStay does bring something to the forward line. It's freeing up the likes of Mio and whatnot, but I'd still want to see a big fucking pack marking big boy forward.
yeah, I agree. I mean, I said Jeremy Cameron.
Oh yeah, good one.
The guy I was watching with, because we're not really struggling to score. We've kicked 40 goals in 2 games. I mean, he suggested, I can't remember the other one, but he said Tom Stewart is one player that, he'd like to see that drive. I mean, we're getting drive out of defense anyway, but he really felt he could be an architect. I mean, the other one I'd say it'd be Cripps. If we had Cripps, I think we'd just never
Yeah.
lose a game. Um,
Mm.
but just an interesting one, because you look at that side, I think although we kicked the 40 goals, as you've just delineated, there's still some question marks over the quality of the key position stocks up forward. So
Yeah, I mean the reason either one of the Kings would it just fits the age demographic of us too. I think you need someone that's as Cameron would be an instant hit. You want someone who's going to sort of grow into the next 10 years as well.
yeah, well, yeah.
But
Look,
anyway, all of them are well and truly worthy inclusions.
how about Brody Grundy?
Yeah, no, it'd be good.
Yeah. Anyway, what do you tip? What's your tip against Richmond?
I think they'll win by about 10 goals.
Who, Richmond or Collingwood?
Yeah, Richmond.
Really?
Oh, we're fucked.
I'll
We've
go
got no
for
chance.
I'll go for Collingwood by 36 points.
I haven't seen anything with our form this year that could indicate that we could win this game. Not a thing.
Oh, okay. Look, it's really actually, I've never experienced this, but there's fucking opposition supporters just saying they're enjoying watching Collingwood. I had a Carlton friend text me and goes, "I'm really enjoying watching you guys." It's like, well, there's a Carlton guy enjoying it. Um, I saw
Maybe you should charge admission.
I saw an interview with Alistair Lynch where they asked him about who do you like watching. He goes, "I really like watching Collingwood." Gary Lyons said it also when he hosted whatever show he will post on Fox or whatever the fuck it is now. So it's really, really strange that you're getting this love for Collingwood. This club's never had love in its life. It's had some pity. It's never had love from opposition supporters, though.
Yeah, actually, I did see Kim Dillon wrote an article today saying he really really enjoys watching the Gimp scene from from that oh fuck, what was the film?
Pulp
I
Fiction.
would sorry,
Pulp
Pulp
Fiction.
Fiction. Yeah, I would have closed that off, but if I could remember the name of the film, maybe we
Yeah.
could rewind it and have another crack at that one,
Oh, we'll have to
or
talk to
or just move on.
talk to Coxie about using the time machine. No, anyway. So, any final thoughts?
No, look, I'd be very, very happy to see the um, same game unfold as Port. Coincidentally, and maybe this is a good omen. I'm not watching the game live again Friday night. I'll be doing the same thing on replay, monitoring the scores as well. I was meant to go see Rod Stewart, that young rocker, and the concert was cancelled, but it's been rescheduled for Friday, so I'm going to take that opportunity to go see him. And I think he's planning on having the game shown live on the screen behind him while he's performing. I know he loves Cox. I think he's got a song he's going to do for him, which will be good. And yeah, it should be a beauty to see a bit of Rod and watch the game at the same time. I can't wait. I'm actually surprised that anyone's going to the G this week. I think they're all going to Mount Dunedin to see this. Could be one of the great moments in human history.
What's your favorite Rod Stewart song?
Um, well, I don't know. Haven't the majority of them been banned now?
I don't know. I don't know him well enough.
Um, favorite Rod Stewart song. I know my favorite album is Never a Dull Moment. Is a number. I mean, I wouldn't probably say any of them for me as a particular standout. Probably Hot Legs, but you can't sing about those anymore. Do you think I'm coxy? I think that's probably a big one of his.
How about that? Because he's doing some new material, isn't he?
Those that'd be good. I mean, I'm sure he's got his old writing stick out and penned a few beauties. No, I'm looking forward to some new material. Not.
No, no, all I heard, like, he had this new one out, stopping 4 in a row. I think that would
Yeah.
be really good.
No, I'm looking forward to that. No, so it should be good. Hopefully we have a nice comfortable win, and I'll head back to Melbourne and watch the replay with a
Well, that
few
was,
scotches. That'll be a good finish to the night.
some Scotsmen. Anyway, that's
Doesn't
it from
everyone?
us. We will be back next week, possibly with surprises. I don't know anymore.
Yeah, no, I believe that you've made some changes, which will be good
To the Rant Cave.
to the Rant Cave. I think you got Ronald McDonald on the phone, said, look, the new Magpies is a screaming success. I think the Rant needs a bit of injection of new scenery, so it should be beauty. So what have you done? You bought a new footy card?
I haven't got Mark Robinson in.
I said card.
He's anyway. Let's not go there. Anyway,
I
that's
think
it
a
from
lot of
us.
women have said the same thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, not a lot of television producers have. So that's it. Later.
All right, catch. See you back in front of the cameras.